So just to let you know, we want to cover most of it in the first 30 minutes because after 30 minutes there is like some kind of voice actor panel. And so we want to make sure that we get through most of it within the first 30 minutes.
So that if you want to go see that, you won't be missing that much.
Right.
All right, so do you want to like introduce yourself?
Yeah, let's do introductions. So let's start with you.
Okay, I'm Regidar. And I don't know if any of you know me, but I'm somewhat popular on FimFiction. Thank you, Chellis. I'm not particularly popular specifically for my stories, but I do boast the highest number of posted stories on the site. I've written 144 since 2012. Bear in mind that this has been happening since like I started when I was in 9th grade. So I've sacrificed my entire high school career to write pony words. For anyone who's like still in high school, don't do that. Because I was a straight A student until I started doing this, and now I get like C's.
C's get degrees.
I love that. I love it. So what's like one story that people know you most for?
I'm not allowed to say it because this is a safe for work panel. But I mean, like, I've written some stories that have got, like, I wrote a Fallout crossover called Try Not to Die where Moira Brown ended up in Equestrian. It has a ton of upvotes. And I wrote some shipfics that got high upvoted. Take It Back is probably the other one that people would know. Discord and Celestia sort of thing.
You got one that you know him for?
Well, I'm wondering, this is actually a good way to make people know. As like on the internet, voiceovers like narrator or Scribbler done any of your work?
Oh yes, Scribbler has done one of my works. It's called He Gave Her a Rose. I don't know if any of you have heard that one. And she also did You Don't Remember.
Oh.
So you remember, you don't remember?
No, I mean, I've heard that.
Okay, cool. What? That's Derek. Derek wrote Asylum. And he's not, unfortunately. I wish he was. I love Derek. He's my waifu.
All right, stop taking up my screen time.
All right,
okay.
You go. I've talked enough.
So my name is Princess Cadence. That's legitimately what my name is on FimFiction. And
You're my favorite pony.
My favorite pony actually is not Cadence. It's Trixie. But dude, Seth went to bed at like flipping 4 o'clock in the morning last night.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah, and Seth doesn't sleep. People don't really know me for any of my stories, mainly just for my ideas. I mean, I have one story about Luna and Sunset Shimmer that got people like it. It's called Sunsets and Moonlight or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, we're like going to be your panel today. So
yeah.
All right. So first off, we're going to talk about how to make a good story. To make a good story, you need two things. One, you need to have good writing. So the only ways to do that are by reading and writing. You can only do that by practicing. And so with that out of the way, we're going to go on to the next thing. The next thing is making something fun, creating a fun plot, a fun idea.
Yeah, I mean, and just to go back, like you said, to get it out of the way, but I really do have something to say about that. Consistently writing is so important. Like, you can't just write one thing if you're new to writing and then get upset that it's not all you wanted and then just wait like months and then write again. I mean, you can if you want, if that's how it best works for your life. But if you really want to get good at writing, because when I did start back in 2012 and I wrote all the time, I wrote terrible things, like the epitome of like sort of My Immortal-esque stories. Like, it was that bad. Like, I hit every fandom cliche and stuff like that, and through trial and error, I was able to improve my writing. So it's just important to write all the time. Even if you don't publish it, you don't have to publish it if you don't feel like you want other people to see it. Just write, and get feedback from people you trust, so that you don't have to like throw yourself out in front of a bunch of random internet strangers.
It was the same thing with me. I mean, I first started posting stories on 4chan, and they were like, this sucks. And I'm like, I'll show you, I'll go on FimFiction and it'll have all these great reviews, and it didn't. But after a while, I kept writing more and more stories, and eventually it got to the point where it was like 1 dislike to every 1 like to you can't even see the red bar anymore.
Yeah, so writing is definitely a perseverance art. It is something that you have to work hard at, but I do feel like it pays off when it gets good.
So yeah, who can tell me what the 2 things of making a good story are? The 2 things. Just shout them out.
Good, engaging characters that help you move the story along.
The 2 things are having good writing, like writing well, and having a good idea. And that's what I really want to drive home here is how to create good ideas. Let me just...
Interesting stories. The name of this panel is How to Write Original Fan Fiction, and it was not until last night that it occurred to me that that's an oxymoron, because fan fiction is derivative work.
Yeah. Fan fiction is not original. You write fan fiction because it's new, or not new, but it's familiar to you. Like, you read fan fiction because you want to hear about Applejack, you want to hear about Twilight, and you already have a good idea of who the characters are. And so it is kind of an oxymoron. So let's talk about what is original. Anybody have any ideas? Shout it out.
Original is when you take from so many other sources that it's unrecognizable.
That is completely correct. Like, I can't even, like, there's no such thing as an unheard of idea at this point, I believe. I mean, that's just what I believe. I could be completely wrong. But just by being able to hide your sources so well in your mix of ideas, that is what originality is. So, you know, if you're bringing that into fan fiction, if you really, really like a very popular story, it's okay to use tropes from those stories as long as you make sure that you incorporate other ideas in to the point where nobody will be able to call you out on, oh, that trope was used in Fallout Equestria, or that trope was used in Past Sins, or something like that. So that's where really the reading comes into it. Read original novels, read fan fiction from other fandoms, and read from the so-called fandom classics that I referred to earlier, which I didn't actually give a list of what they are, but you know, like the really popular stories, even if the writing is questionable, there are still going to be good ideas in there, because generally stories do not get really, really popular without there being some sort of redeeming quality. I mean, even cupcakes. Like, let's just use something that everyone should know. That is, generally, the writing is poor. Hi. The writing is poor, and it's edgy, but there are some very good tropes in there. There's some good descriptions. There's some, you know, and even if it's a shock value fic, there's still some things about it that people have been using in grimdark fanfiction in this fandom since its conception. So I mean, like, even with stories like that, you can always find something good, and as long as you read and read and read and read, ideas will form to you from the conglomerate of the things that you have read.
Yeah, there are many different things you can use to get new ideas. One of them is, you know, reading more and being able to pull things from that and be like, what if we put a twist on it and made it like this, or things like that. What I did when I first started writing was I really wanted to focus on originality. So I started with shipping 2 different characters, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to go on FimFiction, look up specific characters. I'm going to look at someone who I've never seen written before, like Barry Punch. All right. Now, there was one time when I wanted to do a Daring Do story. I'm like, okay, now who am I going to ship with Daring Do? And Barry Punch was the only person who I could think of who could actually think that Daring Do was real. And so then I just wanted to build on it. I just wanted to build on it. Like, okay, so what if they had a baby? Okay, so the baby would have like this purple mane, like Barry Punch, and an orange coat, like Daring Do. And what if when Berry Punch was pregnant, she got intoxicated and then had a problem with the baby, and now she can never fly. It's Scootaloo! So yeah, just keep on building and building.
All right, so
I'm a grown man who likes Technicolor ponies. That's what's
if you've
wrong
made it
with
this far, you don't get to like ask that question. I'm sorry. On to the idea of shipping ideas.
Oh yeah.
Like I know I'm gonna let. Do you want to say your idea on it first? Because my idea is different than yours.
Well, I just want to say I was at a panel yesterday, and someone came up with some pretty dang good original shipping ideas.
I thought you were talking about the thing right up here, but that's a final remark. Never mind. Okay.
Oh no, I was planning on doing that like right now. Okay, so we were coming up with some shipping ideas, and someone had the idea of Rainbow Dash and Boulder Dash, and I don't know, they were coming up with some funny stuff like
Carlos, please.
Big Mac and Tank.
That's my kind.
Like
That's some furry level stuff.
Seabreeze and Tom. I don't know. If you can find out how to write that well, you will definitely get views for that.
Yeah,
If that's what you're looking for.
I've never seen, like, just me personally, I've never seen any breezy ship fix. I'd like one of you guys to write that, please.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really just concerned about, like, the size difference sort of thing, just, ship them with each other. I don't care. I want to see something with that. Okay.
Hold on, I got one more point for this.
We can't mention
Can't mention what?
the STD markers.
I won't say the actual name.
Oh, okay, thank God.
Okay. And something that I was just thinking about last night is taking an idea that people have already all thought about. Like, how many of you have seen Friendship is Witchcraft?
Yeah.
Most of you? And so most of you know, like, have at least thought about what would happen if people found out that Sweetie Belle was a robot, right? Sweetie Belle, yeah. So, like, try taking an idea that people have already thought of and putting it in a way that people wouldn't think have happened. Like, everybody's done parodies, but what about, like, say, you turned it into a horror story? Like, you turned it into, I am dead scared that Sweetie Belle is going to kill me and my family. I am dead scared
Terminator Belle?
that everything that I have shared with my best friend, and now my best friend could take everything away from me, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's just something that I thought of last
Yeah,
night.
it's like I actually have like a story in the works similar. It seems so weird that you brought up Sweetie Bot, because I have one that's just like where like Lyra and Vinyl build animatronics, and Sweetie Belle is one that accidentally came to life, and they just preside. The reason why they both end up in Ponyville a lot is because they're watching over her to make sure that she doesn't do anything stupid. It's not published, so none of you guys are going to be able to find it, but. So, yeah, and like again, if you think an idea is stupid, embrace that, because 80% of my stories are just dumb ideas I had. For instance, there's this one, like, I don't know if any of you know that somewhat old picture on the internet of this guy force feeding his friend Xboxes. Somebody ponified that with Lyra and Bonbon, and I'm like, I'm gonna do that. So I did, and it's just like Lyra, Bonbon's literal like interpretation of love is that she feels like the only way that she can love Lyra is to force feed her Xboxes, and Lyra as an organic being cannot digest them. So then I personified her digestive enzymes, and she died, because you can't, if you were force-fed Xboxes, you die. But the enzymes went out singing "Welcome to the Black Parade" by My Chemical Romance, and then she died, and then like she was just laying in the hospital, and the doctor just told Bonbon what an idiot she was. And because Bonbon literally did not understand the concept that her love had killed her, she just went into the room, shoved one last Xbox in her mouth, and just let Lyra die. So I mean, that is possibly the stupidest idea I've ever written, although there are many that could contend with that.
So that goes right into our next point. Is original necessarily a good thing?
Absolutely not.
It's not necessarily a good thing. Like, let me tell you about my latest story. It's about the Cutie Mark Crusaders trying to get Batman cutie marks, and they tried doing it by using black magic, which Apple Bloom actually does because Sweetie Belle sucks at magic, and they summon Owie Zodel, and then they start talking about the Raiders, and it didn't do well. It didn't do well at all. So
I mean, like, and then going to the opposite side of that with just like movies, like Oblivion. Well, that was a really entertaining, good movie, but it was every science fiction movie ever. And it was still really, really, really good. So I mean, like, if you write a story that is so blatantly obvious, just like the epitome of a trope, if it's a good trope, that story is going to be good if your writing supports it. And of course, getting to the good writing thing is always just writing, and listening when other people tell you, hey, this part of your writing is kind of like lackluster. Please fix it. Then if you do that, and you taking criticism, gonna go over this briefly because there's not a lot to be said about it. I can't be verbose about it. If somebody's not being a giant jackass to you, take their criticism to heart. If somebody reviews, like on FimFiction especially, there are people who call themselves review groups, and they're really just, I hate your story, please die. Myth or Moth especially, but groups like Rage, and there's this group called Why. Like, there's just like so many groups, and I used to be a part of them because I thought they were funny, but then I realized what they're really doing is just like people who were like, I've watched people just stop writing, and like, because these people are like, your story's stupid and you'll never get better, but under the pretense that they're actually helping them, it's like there's nothing to lose from encouraging somebody's creativity. So don't be that guy who stifles it.
I just want to point out that this panel has no specific beef with anybody, so if anybody's on any of those review things, we're sorry. We don't mean to hurt your feelings.
That's just my perspective of it, and
Yeah.
I will gladly talk to you after the panel about it, and I will listen to your side of the story because I'm open to that.
So now that we've talked about how, like, when you write something original, everybody's going to hate you. So why write original stuff then?
I think because it has to come from somewhere. Like, even there are people, like, history is littered with artists who did not do well at all and then ended up becoming amazing. And I mean, I know that this is a very elevated comparison to call anybody within within fan fiction writing on the same level as like Van Gogh or something, but he's like a guy who his entire life was patronized for doing like a type of painting that was original to him and was not really seen or valued at the time. But then after he died, he became basically one of the most lauded artists of all time. And I mean, I'm not saying you have to write really good stories and then die and then we'll like your stories. Please don't do that. I'll be sad. But it just shows, like, if you, like, again, it goes back to writing being a perseverance art. Original stuff will catch on if it is of a good quality, and making friends inside of the community is one of the most important things. I cannot stress that enough. If I had not become friends with a lot of very popular writers, I don't think I would have any chance at being one of the most followed people on FimFiction, which I am in the top 50. So, I mean, even though people don't generally read my stories, I still feel honored that people care enough about that. So, thank you.
So the reason why I personally write original stuff is because when you write something original, it makes things more fun. I mean, you write to be creative, and when you stretch your creativity, it honestly makes it more fun for you to write. Like, when you come up with new ideas, this idea is your baby. It is something that has never been done. You can claim, like, all right, this is something that is just from me. And actually, I'm going to take a minute to applaud myself. I was actually the first person who ever wrote anything Sonata on FimFiction. And
Nice.
I'm taking credit for something that everybody else has done, but I was the first person to do it. Yeah, that's right.
Enjoy your imaginary internet points.
But yeah, I mean, when you write stuff that you create, I'm trying to think of a good way to say this.
Like, you can feel proud of it. Like, even though, like, I don't know how well that story did, but I'm assuming it wasn't hailed as like a fandom legend.
It's one of my more popular ones, but again,
I mean,
who
like,
knows
yeah,
why,
like,
who knows
you
why.
have that accomplishment within yourself because that's important. Any artist should feel like they value themselves before they seek the validity from other people. You really, like, even if fan fiction, like there was a panel last year, if it may seem like I'm talking down to fan fiction, I'm really trying not to. I just, like, fan fiction is a legitimate art just like any other one. It relies heavily on derivative form, so a lot of people don't take it as seriously. And you should. I mean, you should take anything you do seriously with pride, even if it is a stupid story. Like, I don't say that that my stupider stories are particularly, like, worthwhile to read, but I still feel proud that I wrote them, that I took the time to come up with jokes that I thought were funny. So I mean, feel proud of your stories unless you know that you didn't do your best work with it and you know that you didn't care about the story when you wrote it. Then it's okay to feel like, oh, this story is not really like.
Which brings up another point, is that writing original stuff helps make you a better writer. It helps you think in a new perspective. It helps you critique yourself in a way that you wouldn't have been able to do so otherwise. Hold on, let me get back to my notes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is actually a very, very good point. And so, it can be hard because people feel very comfortable with things that they've already read. That's like people listen to pop music, which I love, by the way, so I'm not dissing that. Because it's a melody that they've heard and it feels good, like they've heard other songs that felt good to them that sounded like it, so it's another song that sounds like it. Yes, I like this. It's the same thing with a lot of stories, like why people keep writing Fallout, Equestria Fix, because it's something familiar to them, or why people write in the trends that show up in fan fiction, because it feels comfortable to them and they already read it, and it's something that they know that they like, so they can go there and not take the chance of finding something that they didn't like and feeling bad that they went through a story and it ended up sitting poorly with them. So original fiction will not always get the benefit of the doubt because it's something new that some people don't want to take the risk with. But having written it will make you better, or writing something original will make you better for it because you went through the process of going through something that nobody had done before, and you were able to pioneer for yourself. I mean, in fan fiction, that's a bit hard to do, but people have done it, and I mean, the fandom tropes and the general ideas and the trends in the fandom had to start somewhere. So all those things that were mega popular like now, like winning verse, which I don't like personally, like the.
Like Vinyl Scratch and Octavia.
Yeah, like all this stuff, they had to come from somewhere. Somebody started with it, and so in the beginning, they may have not been very well received. Some were right off the bat, but there's these things that these people started and pioneered with, and that's how the trend started. And it made, I believe that for most of them, it made them better writers for it.
All right, so we realized on the schedule there was a little flub that said, one said that we were starting at 12:45, one said that we were starting at 1. So to anybody who came in like after 1, let's just do a recap. So what we really want to stress is that the two biggest parts of making a story good are 1, making it well, like writing it well, which is only done through perseverance.
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice.
And coming up with a good idea. Now, remember that the idea has to be your idea. It has to be your baby.
Like, I'm gonna bring up like a direct thing that ended up causing a lot of flack on the site. I'm blanking on the name of these stories, but Aegis Shield wrote a story, and he's really popular, so I assume some of you know his stuff. He wrote a story that was very similar to another one, Celestia's Prophet was the name of his, I think. That was where Celestia keeps a human tied up in his dungeons, and to basically tell him the future or something. I didn't read it because I don't read Aegis Shield stuff, but that was very similar to a story that happened right before, that happened before it, and basically the same exact premise. And I think the reason why it caused so much drama, but people were like, oh, you copied, even though I'm pretty sure Aegis Shield did not copy it word for word, like some people were claiming. But it's just like, it's an idea that was really good, that had already been done, and I feel like Aegis Shield did not want to change that because he felt the idea was too good. And when you write, if you want to make it your own, he did not. And the reason why it ended up becoming such like a big deal was he didn't really put his own twist in it. It was sort of like the same story but written by him. So even if it's a story that's been told a million times, like Asylum was brought up earlier. The guy who wrote it, that story is basically, he has told me that story is basically the same. Is basically the same story like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or what's another really famous Asylum story? Or Silence of the Lambs. It's basically like it's spooky asylum. Character wakes up, their whole life has been a crazy delusion. Except he wrote it as the twist that he put into it to make it his thing instead of just another Silence of the Lambs or another One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, was that he wrote it as the asylum's not an evil place that's torturing people. It's an institution trying to help people get better, and it's through the drama of Twilight trying to come to terms with the fact that the show that we've all seen is her delusions. So I mean, I feel like that's what makes that's a story that's written on a very popular trope that's incredibly original because of the twist that was put on it. So you can take something like Celestia has a human tied up in her dungeon who tells the future for her and put a twist on it that will make it completely different from Aegis Shields and the other guy who wrote the first one.
Ugh, too spooky.
Speaking of the Asylum thing, I thought it was unfinished.
Oh yeah, Asylum's unfinished. Don't worry about that.
Okay, so the big ending twist hasn't
Yeah.
exactly happened.
No, I don't. I was talking about the twist of the story as a whole in general. Is that the asylum's not evil, which is that is not a spoiler because that is evident from like the first chapter to my understanding, because I haven't read that much of Asylum, but I'm very good friends with the author, so that's why I felt like I could talk about it.
All right.
When the next update is for that?
I do not. He hasn't told me. He says he's working on it, but
Like in the panel?
I don't know where Derek is, but I mean, I'll talk to you after the panel on that because I kind of want to move on to something else, but remind me about that.
All right. So I want everybody who is currently working on a story right now to raise their hand. All right. Everybody, if any of those ideas are Vinyl Scratch and Octavia, I want you to put your hand down right now.
Okay, so more people put their hands up. I don't know what the opposite of Scratch-tavia is, but
No, I mean like if you're writing any story, like if you're working on any story right now, hands up. But if any of those involve Octavia and Vinyl Scratch, put your hand down. Okay, thanks,
was it
Chalice.
literally just you?
Okay. And if it has anything to do with Lyra and Bonbon, put it down. All right, so we got a lot of people here who have got ideas. So, hold up.
I would hope so. I mean,
I'm gonna start walking around.
what are you doing?
Just trust me on this one. All right.
The last time that happened, I lost a finger.
I'm not giving it back.
Tell us what your story is.
It's a clever ruse.
Story is,
Yeah, well, you put the head down now.
well, it's pretty much Luna has a space base. She's been on the moon for 1,000 years, so she has to have something to do there. She would use her magic to create a breathable atmosphere, to create not really machines, a palace to live in, and tools to help her with. And every time she's not with Celestia, she goes up to the moon and watches the world. Kinda
I like it.
I do too. That is very good. Let's give that guy a round of applause. It's a really good story idea.
Mine is kind of like the classic form of murder mystery where you follow like the character's progress on how they solve like this murder. I don't. Is it?
Don't be shy. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so I decided to have the victim be a character who's only got a few seconds of screen time. So I had after Braver Apple's been missing for a year, he's found beaten to death in the Everfree Forest.
Oh wow! You see, I've never
That's
heard
grim.
that before.
Yeah. I've actually never had Brayburn as the.
All right, I like it.
Yeah.
You in the suit.
Mine is a human equestrian.
Boo. No, I'm kidding. Wait. Was he? What is he? Is he ex-military?
He is not.
Is he a brony?
He's not.
All right, continue so we can actually hear your plot.
It's exploring how badly a first contact can go with neither side really being at fault. And I'm not going to say exactly how it happens because it's a little graphic.
Okay.
Oh my.
What I want you guys to do. I want you all to right now think of a plot that you've never seen before, that you've never read, just completely out of your own minds. All right, when you think of something, raise your hand. You ready?
Lyra, okay, so this part's we've heard before. Lyra thinks humans are real. Here's her evidence. In Winter Wrap-Up, there's a clapping sound. Winter Wrap-Up, Winter Wrap-Up. Horses can't make clapping sounds, so that's her proof that humans are real.
I like it.
So like, what does she do with that? Does she like explore sonic rhythms? Is it just her sitting alone in a room listening to recordings of the whole town singing?
Let's do it. Let's do that. All right.
Never seeing the light of day again.
Trixie, after wandering around for a long time, cast out of pretty much every town, comes upon this town where she's assured that everyone is equal. She doesn't like this at all because she is the great and powerful Trixie. She is the best. She is powerful and
All right. Now, can I throw a critique in there somewhere?
Yes.
All right. So I personally have seen stories where Trixie goes into other towns like Canterlot or Sweet Apple Acres and things like that, and it's very
Sweet Apple Acres is not a town, sir.
So
He meant Appaloosa just for like consistency.
Like, try making an idea that we've seen and put
That
it.
is an idea you say.
Yeah, try making it into something.
Well, I think the idea of this is taking like the newest episode that we've shown, and I'm assuming this would happen before the main six showed up.
Yeah.
So I think that that's actually a really good idea because how Trixie would clash against them.
It would be more of a character exploration thing where it's kind of pitting her against what's her face, Starlight.
Yeah, Starlight Glimmer.
Where she,
Equality pwn.
Trying to convince her to give up everything that makes her special, and it's kind of exploring everything that Trixie believes makes her special.
All right, that's what I like because right there you see not necessarily events, but philosophical ideas that are brought out through your writing, through the events that happen.
I'll write that.
Yeah.
All right, you Raz. There, you Raz. Yeah.
One of my stories is Nightmare Moon. When she is on the moon, she can still use her dream launch powers, and so she goes between Pony Springs to terrorize them for fun, because that's what else she's gonna do. But she slowly sees as the world changes, they forget about her and just see her off in no way. And so she becomes much more violent in her actions, but the pony is like, oh, who are you?
Just a fleeting nightmare. I like it.
I like it. All right. For this next one, they start at 1:30, I think.
Okay.
All right. For this next one, yeah, you get up too. I'll take this side. You take this side.
Oh,
The
what
next-
are we doing? You have to explain it to me. I
Yeah,
can't just
I'm
walk
gonna
around.
explain. The next activity that we're going to do is create a ship that we've never seen before. We're going to whenever we want.
Actually, I don't think there's a panel after this. So.
Yeah, there's no panel till like 3, so we'll go if you want. You guys can do
Twilight
whatever you
Cadence
want.
and the Friendship Express.
Oh my. I would think that just remember this one story where in the Harry Potter fandom where somebody shipped a giant squid with a castle.
That's me because I shipped the giant squid with Dumbledore once.
That's hot.
So tell me what that idea was again.
Twilight Cadence and the Friendship Express.
Okay. Okay.
Very interesting to see how that would work.
All right. You the best.
How about
married with shining armor to Discord so that she can marry Graver. Behind the camera. King Sombra and a Wendigo. Nice.
Well done, you.
Angel Bunny and Ursa Major.
I want you to go on like how that would work. How would we expand on this?
Oh!
We need to finish all kinds of places.
Oh shit.
Well, while Angel was feeding Fluttershy, like Spinner saw it, it was very pleased that it was feeding Pony.
Yes, okay. I should ask Ursa Major for help.
Okay, we're gonna.
Alright, you super.
Fleetfoot and Crackle.
I like that.
Wireless?
Fleetfoot's lisp is like just so entertaining to me.
I think it's done though.
Practice.
Okay. Well, how about this? I want to try specifically 2 ponies. This next one, 2 ponies.
All right, yeah. So let's keep inanimate objects and like other species. Okay. You back there.
Yes. Okay. Trixie and Star Swirl.
Whoa. That's
I think it's
time travel.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to pick somebody or do you?
Yeah, you can right here.
So I was thinking, following equestrian, you have 2 ponies who are locked away in separate vaults and can only communicate through keyboards or sort of texting. One of them is not sure if the other one's a real pony or if it's just a computer program.
The other one's like ASL.
So this might sound kind of weird because I'm going to describe the setup, but everyone's convinced that Vinyl and Octavia are together, but actually Vinyl has a crush on Volleyball.
I like it.
All right, I'm gonna do one more, and we're gonna go on to our next activity. You there in the back?
Hokey Beers and Party Paper.
Yeah.
Party Paper wouldn't get lost.
That's too hot and heavy for this battle.
All right, we got another.
What was our next thing?
We got one last.
Do you want to like open to questions, or are we going to do another thing first?
We're gonna do another thing.
Okay.
Okay. Twilight spell goes wrong. Make the story original.
Because
I already did that.
generally this story oh yeah, you wrote Solitary Locust.
Yes, I did.
So if any of you read that. But the thing that happens with the spell going wrong generally, this is the basic premise for human and Equestria stories. Like the spell goes wrong, some lonely guy gets yanked into Equestria. So all right, you.
Twilight accidentally creates an unstoppable but extraordinarily slow performing black hole.
Like a mini event horizon.
Yeah, and the idea of black holes is that it actually slows time around it, so to them it's normal, but in reality
There's like there's an SCP that's
You know,
exactly like that, and I think that would be really cool.
So no other magic will stop it, but it's so slow.
That's big dumb object.
Okay. Okay.
Nothing.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Okay, she burned
On accident, all the magic in Equestria is sucked out, and suddenly all the ponies have to get rid of every single thing that they know about their society and progress technologically instead of through magic.
Okay, what if Twilight spell? What if it's like a psychological story where like she thinks she created some horrible monster, but everyone else finds evidence that she didn't really do anything?
Oh, so the spell affected her mind. That's nice.
Or what if did it really happen?
Whoa.
Nothing went wrong.
What a twist.
It's like Hamlet. Like, is he really crazy or what?
The real Twilight Zone right here.
Marks, but Apple gets Scootaloo gets
Twilight's spell goes wrong. She's transported back to the beginning of time, and it turns out she is the parent of Celestian.
I think that's.
Oh,
Did you already write that? Because I think that's cheating if you did.
I didn't know.
Someone did, I can't remember.
yes.
Okay. What about you, sir?
Twilight is experimenting with long-range teleportation magic when Spike is accidentally teleported into Celestia's secret chambers, where he discovers her log of everything she's been doing, and there's these all little details of how she's been forcing everything upon the main six to happen.
So it's kind of like Twilight spell goes right by going. I like it.
That is some next level Illuminati stuff.
I think that's kind of been done a lot, though, in the whole Celestia as a manipulator.
I know, but that's specific.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is good. We can get that around.
Well,
One more from each side.
yeah, I want to go right back to original story ideas, because that's mainly what this is about, generating new ideas. So I want you to take a minute, think of a whole storyline.
A whole new world.
Yeah, your whole plot of the story. And make it one where we can build on it and create new ideas off of new ideas.
Okay, since some of you already have it, you might have it, so.
Well, you asked this question before, and I've had it. Okay, two teens, like human teens, come to their town, and instead of just finding like a lone pony out there, they discover that their entire town is like taken over by equestrians in human form. It's like you've seen The World's End. That's not a Peg movie.
I haven't seen it either, I'm sorry.
Well, like, these robots replace humans and they're born, and it's like, what if ponies did this? What if they
So is this set on Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, that was confusing me. Okay,
So,
good.
like, what if the ponies came to Earth, were disgusted with how we were treating everything, and then tried to make it better?
Pony terrorists, I like that. You here, you've had your hand raised for a little bit. He's not looking at you. Yeah.
Okay, so my idea was that Final Scratch has a lisp. But it goes on off of that her father also had a lisp. All you remember Scatman, right? Scatman? Yes.
So Scatman is Final Scratch's father.
Just inspiration. So she's having to deal with both her father's death, and going through high school, having to deal with her lisp, and learning how to just sit back and enjoy your DJing without having to actually talk.
You know what? That brings up a point, because every story that I've ever written or read about Final Scratch, she's always been this like BA character. I do what I want. I party all night kind of thing. I've got so much confidence. I've never heard a story about like her ever being self-conscious in any way.
It's I'm trying to narrative character. That's really cool.
I've heard a couple.
This is more just a premise, but so it's set in the future, and it turns out that Twilight's castle, after it was created by the Tree of Harmony, has been slowly sucking the magic out of Equestria, and so it can no longer sustain life, and the ponies have to figure out how to learn to live.
So it's kind of like, not exactly, but sort of like the tree at the beginning of season 4 has become Twilight's castle.
Yeah, and it's like slowly sucking the magic out of
You are
Equestria.
so full of ideas, and I really like that.
All right, let's do one more.
So between season 3 and season 4, this is the alternate universe, Twilight, she's practicing her flying maneuvers. When she tweaks a wing, it goes down into a spiral and like falls and hits the ground. And the only part of her that Celestia can save in time is her brain. So then they slowly build up the technology to rebuild her as a cyborg.
We have the technology.
And as she's doing think the fundamental question that she's exploring is, what does it mean to be a pony?
Because I noticed we've been asking a lot of the same people the question, so I'm so sorry. All right, your idea, sir.
Okay, so I think Twilight's trying to use a viewing club as a chorus potion, trying to see more events happen in the past. Just eventually somehow linking her mind to Night and Moon to use that information to win against Celestia. Twilight has to find a way to actually go back to the past to undo the damage she's inadvertently caused.
Doesn't that kind of remind you of the album that we were doing?
Oh
Where,
yeah.
like, guys-
Except we blew that so hard.
Oh yeah.
like we wrote out the lyrics to it and they're like, oh, so does anyone actually know how to play an instrument? And everyone in the Skype group left. So it was a good idea to know how to play at least one instrument. I myself was a drummer.
All right. So we're being told that we have like 5 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you guys supposed to end right now, but I'll give you like 2 minutes.
All right, cool. Let's have some questions really fast because I know some of you have some. All right, you.
I actually just wanted to say this, while you guys are doing the whole big thing. Derpy Hoops and the Blue Cyclops from the Grand Galvin Gala episode.
Nice. All right, so yeah, actually, I guess since we're just going to be doing like a lightning round of different things, they don't have to be questions. So they can just be ideas that you want to throw at us, which I don't know where he went. Okay. You. Yes.
But I think that character could be considered overpowered, but there is depend on very specific circumstances to actually work.
I see. So there would have to be some sort of trigger that would allow them to use their powers, and otherwise they're like helpless.
Yeah.
All right. You haven't gone yet, so.
For the original idea, all the citizens of Ponyville are a Truman Show type thing. They don't know, but Twilight does.
And would it be like a comedy or like a drama of like Twilight is grappling with telling her friends?
I was thinking like you explore Twilight trying to hide the fact from her friends. That they're all on TV. And she's like, she's not outside, she's seen the show. And she moves there like a guest actress or something.
Nice. I like it.
All right, I just want to make an announcement real quick, is that the Steps of Dub acting thing has started. If you're like dying to get out of here to do that, then that's starting right now. But
Yeah,
we were
don't keep
planning
us.
on just like keep going with more ideas and keep going until we get kicked out of the room.
Yeah. So, but if you really want to see another panel, don't be like, don't feel like
Yeah.
you need to be here because
Technically, the panel is over right now, but we just want to make sure that people get new ideas and generate
yeah.
more
So
stuff.
if you do want to stay, please do.
Actually, the recording's staying there, you're
Okay. Bow tie. This? Oh, I don't know that. I'm hoping it is because my class back home wanted to see me doing this. I don't know why, but.
Said that it's not just streaming.
Oh, okay. So it's streaming and on YouTube?
It's gonna be on YouTube.
All right, cool. Yeah, then I can show that to them. That's nice. You. Oh, okay, then, wait. Hold on. I'm gonna go Eris first and then you in the blue shirt and then you at the end.
Branching off someone's idea of Trixie and Star Scroll, I came up with something so, and also with the Twilight spell going wrong. Twilight spell goes wrong, accidentally sends Trixie from the past, who used to actually be with Star Swirl, but during that time travel, she lost most of her powerful magic, so she's still in the delusion that she's still powerful and in the past.
Ooh,
So
wow,
she
that's
never
nice.
ruined her life.
That's nice. I like it.
And I like especially how you took an idea and branched off of that. That's really what originality is all about.
Yeah. All right, you, and then we'll have you at the end.
Just another idea. Branching off like what my friend here said.
Yeah.
I've always been curious on like what like Trixie has been doing. Like I read a fan fiction like Trixie is homeless, but that was like before Twilight was a princess.
Right.
I'd like someone to delve into where is Trixie now.
All right. If you ever ask yourself that question, I'd like somebody to delve into that. You be that person, please. Even if it ends up being like not satisfactory to yourself, send it out to some people that you trust to edit for you and not judge you and just like edit for content and stuff like that, so you can make it into a good story, because there's like, you can't just hope that somebody's going to write the story. You should write it yourself, because that's really where the great fan fictions come from.
All right, this guy, the cameraman's been having his hand up for a while. Let's hear it.
So what do you think of foreshadowing acronyms as titles? For example, one that's been in my head for a long time, Heart Seared, Pony Animal Rescue Team, Secondary Emergency Animal Rescue Division.
That's some Kids Next Door level crap right there. I like it.
Wait, so the question was, what do you think of the acronyms being like foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing what will go in the story.
I think that because yours are perfect for that, because they're very vague, unless it's an acronym, like, I'm not going to spell out the acronym in my head, but unless the acronym is something like, it turns out that Twilight was actually Celestia the whole time, is the acronym of the story. I don't think that would ever be an issue. So I think definitely go with acronyms of the story if they're very vague in general, because movies and books do that all the time, and they don't actually spoil what goes on in the story. So I think that foreshadowing in the title is with an acronym is all right with me. All right, you at the end, past Eris.
Sorry, I might have skipped you.
I changed my mind. I was thinking that an idea might be original, but I don't know that.
Okay,
Well, let's hear it.
If you don't want to say it, don't feel obligated to. But if you do, then go ahead.
Thinking about it more, it's kind of something I've heard before, but it was expanding on the Twilight's Club as well.
All right.
So she accidentally kills Spike, and she has to learn how to handle with the grief and try to do things that she used to have Spike do, and that sort of thing.
That sounds really sad, and I definitely think you should write it.
And then it turns out that she never killed Spike all along, and then Spike kills her.
Well, that's twist. All right. You behind. I don't know how to. Black shirt and the pink lanyard.
So Wolf monitors, Wolf documents and records all the events of the main six, and sends it to an agency that monitors other worlds. But it's from the point of view of the Wolf, and you don't know whether it's good or bad.
Wait.
Whether it's intentions for the agency, whether they're doing it to protect Equestria or doing it to overrule air.
Hold on. Did you say a wolf? Because I'm not sure if I heard that right. So you have wolves as their own society.
Yes, it's wolf. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good. World building is always good. If there's there's a lot of I don't know how to pronounce words. Ambiguity. Thank you. I have a disease. It's called being stupid. And there's a lot of ambiguity with that is perfect for world building. And with like what do the deer do? I know the comics sort of address that, but they're secondary canon, so you can go off of that as much as you want. And dragons. We know that the big ones live in caves, and the teenagers sort of hang around doing the equivalent of being teenagers in volcanoes. And I mean, but there's so much you can do with that. And world building is always fantastic. We know so little about zebras because we have basically only Zecora. And donkey and buffalo societies. There's so much to do with that. So world building is always a good idea.
Do you have a question right here?
Yes, actually, this my main problem with writing fan fictions or like any kind of like fictional story whatsoever, is that I have to actually attend school and go to work and things like that. So
I hear ya.
What's like the best way to like keep your thoughts organized if you have to put like big time breaks?
What type of phone do you have?
I don't really have a good phone at all.
Oh, because if you had an iPhone, I would just suggest writing it down in notes. But what I do in school, and I have to be really stealthy about this because my teachers are real sticklers about it, I'll just write down the vague ideas on pieces of paper so that I have them when I get home. Yeah, I have gotten it confiscated before, but thankfully my teachers are not the kind who read the notes out in front of classes. And they don't destroy them, they just give them back to me like, all right, you can't be doing this during algebra, I'm sorry. I'm like, fuck. But yeah. So, yes, and that too, like if you have a writing class where they encourage you to use a laptop, have another tab open where you're writing it in Google Docs while you're doing your other work, because I do that all the time in English class. I just realized I'm going to be showing this video to one of my teachers. JK. Okay, you, last row, black, sort of black shirtish.
I was wondering, how do you have any ideas of the way to create original settings? Like, the setting of Equestria is very individual, but it's still sort of post-apocalyptic. And like, something that they
Oh yeah, for ones that are not commonly seen, like original settings are always nice, but just keep in mind that you are going to be writing something where you have to do a bulk of the explaining around. Like, for instance, you don't have to explain, except for like in the opening sequence of your story, Ponyville is a small town full of these wonderful equines, like that sort of thing. Like, you just give it a little bit of an introduction, and then you just can refer to it as Ponyville after that, because everyone knows what it is. Everyone watches the show, hopefully. And but if you're doing someplace like out in the desert, like with the wasteland where the changelings got blown off to at the end of season 2, you have to make sure that you have to describe it in detail and build it up, because these people are not familiar with the setting. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're writing in alternate settings. And I know you said something about alternate universe settings too. Fallout Equestria, like really, like if you're writing a post-apocalyptic setting, just keep in mind what caused the apocalypse, because Fallout Equestria, to my knowledge, because I don't read it, was high level missile spells. So yeah, which I assume simulated radiation, as if radiation didn't exist in Equestria, where it's clear that there's a regular periodic table of elements. So thanks for nothing, K-Cat. All right, you with the goggles.
Speaking of alternate universes, not in the sense that, well, every fanfiction technically is one, but I mean in the sense of, what are your thoughts on alternate universes that are like, I'm going to retell, the basic story of friendship is magic, just with a twist. There's a couple of these out there where Celestial is the princess who went mad instead of Luna, where someone else is Princess Celestia's student.
Yeah, like the ones with, like, there's this really, really famous one where Rainbow Dash is Princess Celestia's student that I read a while ago. Yeah. Oh, you did? That was a good story. I liked it. That being said, that is a nice thing to do, because it is original. I mean, it's sort of like as an umbrella trope, it's been done a ton of times, but because there's so many things that you can include in that, there's so much room for originality. So I would definitely suggest going with that and just following the other rules of writing a good story.
And by the way, it is pretty dang honorable to say that he likes a story, because he still bashes on me for liking things like romance reports and such. So
that's because I hate you, though. No, I'm kidding. I don't hate him. Yeah. All right, Bama in the back.
Little Stromheart falls into a coma and visits the human world as Buffalo Medicine Woman. Luna has to come to the human world to bring Stromheart back.
All right, just as long as you avoid it being racist, because I know that's like treading into Native American territory. So don't be racist. I'm not saying that idea is inherently racist, but you have to be sensitive, culturally sensitive. But I think that is actually a good idea. It's just that people do get up in arms about this sort of thing. Like, you can't really, if you're going to be introducing very sensitive topics, don't use them for shock value. Like, honestly, just don't do that. Like, I've seen too many stories that use rape and sexual violence just because it's edgy, and I don't like that at all, because it's honestly sort of like you just don't understand the gravity of those situations if you use it as drama instead of a way to explore the psychological ramifications. So just tread lightly if you're doing a story where it's got a lot of gravity.
All right, let's go, Chillis. What you got?
I've been having this burning question to ask both of you.
Oh God.
This is a legit question.
I'm scared.
No. It's sort of that I feel that as fanfiction writers, we have to be working together in order to create something. And to create what's called a good work talking to each other. And I think fanfiction, these writers need to be working together and not tearing each other down. Which leads to this question. Can you read my fanfic?
Which one?
That's a good question.
The only acceptable answer is none of them. I'm sorry. No,
I'm not gonna lie. I've tried collaborating with a whole bunch of people, him included, and it's never worked out.
Yeah,
so your question's meaningless to me.
Okay, so this is actually, he asked if I could read his fan fiction, and you know what? Any of you who want me to read your story, just come to me after the panel, and I'll write down your story names, and I'll read them tonight or tomorrow. So literally anyone in here, if you want me to read one of your stories, just give me the name of it, and I'll write it down on something.
All right. So looks like we have 3 more questions, then we'll probably end it.
Unless you have more. So but yeah. Super.
First of all, as far as alternate universes with like the same old story but an interesting twist, one really interesting one I think it's called like My Little Economics is Magic or something. I remember that. Yeah, it's like the whole story retold as if it was in like looking at economic concepts. So Twilight has to like save the market or something. So that's how it worked out.
The Pony of Wall Street.
So here's one of the things I'd say you can do to find original stories. Take some little background detail of the show or some throwaway line and expand on it. And here are two quick examples. Imagine Psycho, or if I mispronounce his name, took the Twilight Sparkle having seatbelts on her from, I can't even remember which episode that was. Princess Twilight Sparkle. She had seatbelts on her, and we made a story out of that. Another great example, which a lot of us probably read, is let's play the kite game. I'm the world champion. The
Golden Gardez.
Yeah, Golden Gardez is
A great author, by the way. You should read his stuff if you haven't.
What is that story called? Where he took the throwaway line of I'm the world champion at the quiet game and made it into his whole comedy, and it's a great story.
I don't remember because the story of his that I like the most. I think he wrote it. If he didn't write it, I'm gonna look like a moron. But the glass blower. Yeah, that was I hold on, like the actual concept of that story, like the content of that story is not the most original, and I feel like is not the best story I've ever written, although it is good. However, it is the most fantastically written story I have ever written, I've not written that. I've ever read, including original work. That's the flow of that story is just so phenomenal. It blows me away, and it actually makes me jealous that I'm not him. It's called The Glass Blower. It's really good.
All right, you've had your hand up for a while. What you got?
So I actually have two questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First of all, how would you make a story where you're expanding? In one of the comics, they mentioned like this dragon population in Philadelphia or something like that. How would you make that work? Like expanding on that?
By actually like caring about it, by writing it and like thinking, all right, how is this going to work? How am I going to write a story about dragons in Philadelphia? How is this going to be like? Is there going to be a problem with dragons in Philadelphia?
Yeah,
Are there going to be like?
You need like a reason.
Is there some big political thing like we want only ponies here? All the dragons have to stay in the back of the bus or something?
What racists? Again, take that very seriously.
Anyway, the second question is, did you publish this story about Lyra being force fed Xboxes?
Oh yes, I did. You can read that. It's called Because I Love You. If any of you want to, I disagree, but okay. I don't know if I can even say. I think there's this one serial story I haven't finished called Some Love.
Yeah.
If you wanted my opinion on what I consider to be my greatest story, I'd have to say it's Some Love. I don't know if any of you have watched Salad Fingers.
Yeah.
But I really love David Firth, the guy who made it, like beyond just like the memes and like the shock value of how creepy it is. I really feel like David Firth is one of the best creepy animators ever, and I really just wanted to capture the essence of all of his videos and not just his salad finger ones in this story, and I feel like I did a good job. So that's just a little bit of self-promotion.
All right.
Any other questions?
Did we have a question over here somewhere? Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of related to that economic idea that I mentioned. Like equestrian is a depression, and there are various businesses along Twilight Sprint. You got Sugar Butte Corner, you got the boutique, you got Sweet Apple Acres, but the government cannot bail out all those industries. And Twilight has to be on that net to figure out which district to bail out or whatever.
I have a feeling that would like appeal to like a lot of like college level students of it, because there's various like I think that it could be written very well as a very like gripping drama, but it would be appreciated more by people who are into that kind of thing, because there are tiers of the fandom that you have to remember. Like there's a reason why there's all these edgy fics about that are like basically Naruto the pony. It's because there are a lot of 13-year-olds and who want to read stuff like that, because there's even these stories that we mock and make fun of and say that they're like poor, right? Like they're poor stories and stuff like that are still enjoyed by people because there are different age levels and different content appreciation levels in this fandom. So I mean, keep in mind that even your most terrible thing, unless it's like really, really bad, in terms of being like poorly written, somebody will enjoy it. There will always be that yes person in the comments.
And so, to go with some final remarks, it's all about loving what you write. And when you're writing something that isn't about Vinyl Scratch and Octavia, although Vinyl Scratch and Octavia can be
no offense to you, Octavia Scratch shippers, you're just subhuman.
Yeah, so you'll
JK.
learn to love your own writing more, and that's why we write. I mean, we do write so that other people will enjoy what we write, but at the same time, we also write because it's what we're good at, what we can do. And our own ideas, I always say this, I'm my own biggest fan. I love my stories more than anyone else will ever love my stories, and that's how it should be, in my opinion.
I mean, and unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. I feel like there are bigger fans of me than I am of myself. But if you really feel like that, like I do, like how like I look back at my stories and go, then you can use that feeling like I do to just constantly just push yourself to write better and better and better and better, because even if you have a negative feeling, you can create positive output from it. And that's really important to remember when you're doing any sort of art, even if it's writing, music, art, sand sculptures, whatever. So,
and that, my friends, is how to make a story original.